Imagine this. You spent 10 years saving. You skipped vacations. You cut back on eating out. You made sacrifices your friends and family did not fully understand. And then one day, you did it. You signed the papers. You got the keys. You own a home. For most people, that moment feels like the finish line, like you finally made it. But for a growing number of homeowners in Malaysia, that moment was not the finish line. It was the beginning of a financial trap they never saw coming. Today, properties are sitting abandoned. Buyers are being sued by developers. Families are losing homes they have already paid hundreds of thousands of ringgit for. And the most terrifying part? Many of them did everything right. They checked the developer. They got the loan. They followed the process. And they still lost that SO in this video. We're going to break down exactly how Malaysia's property market became a trap, who's falling into it, why it keeps happening, and what every single person watching this needs to know before they buy or before it's too late. Stay with me, because this one could save you everything. For decades, property in Malaysia was considered the safest investment a person could make. Buy land, buy a house, watch it grow in value, pass it on to your children. That was the promise. And for a long time, it held true. Malaysia's economy was growing. The population was expanding. Kuala Lumpur was developing at a pace that made global headlines. New townships were rising overnight in Selangor, Johor, Penang. Everywhere you looked, cranes were in the sky and billboards were promising luxury living at affordable prices. Banks were eager to lend. Developers were eager to build. And buyers were eager to get in before prices rose even higher. It looked like a perfect system. But underneath that boom, something dangerous was being built. Not just buildings, a structural imbalance that would eventually catch up with hundreds of thousands of ordinary Malaysians. And that imbalance has a name. It is called oversupply. Here is something that surprises most people when they first hear it. Malaysia does not have a shortage of homes. It has too many. As of recent years, Malaysia has had one of the highest rates of unsold residential properties in the region. Tens of thousands of completed units sitting empty. Billions of ringgit worth of property that nobody is buying. How does this happen? Developers built what was profitable, not what was needed. High-rise condominiums in city centers. Premium landed properties in new townships far from employment centers. Serviced apartments marketed as investments rather than actual homes. The price points were too high for the average Malaysian to afford. The locations were too far for people to actually want to live there. And the market became flooded with supply that demand simply could not absorb. When supply overwhelms demand, prices stop rising. And when prices stop rising, the entire logic of property as a guaranteed investment begins to collapse. For buyers who purchased at peak prices, expecting appreciation, they now found themselves holding an asset worth less than what they paid, and still owing the bank the full loan amount. That is what financial experts call being underwater. And in Malaysia, more homeowners are in that position than most people realize. But oversupply is only one part of the trap. There is something even more devastating waiting for certain buyers. And it goes by a term that has become one of the most feared phrases in Malaysian real estate. Project Perumahan Terbengkalai. Abandoned housing projects. Here's how it works. A developer launches a project. They collect bookings and down payments. The bank approves your loan and begins disbursing payments to the developer in stages, based on construction progress. You start paying your monthly installments. The construction continues. You visit the site every few months, watching your future home take shape. And then one day, construction stops. The workers disappear. The developer goes quiet. Phone calls go unanswered. And slowly, you realize the project has been abandoned at this point. You have already paid tens or hundreds of thousands of ringgit. The bank has already disbursed a significant portion of your loan, and you're left with nothing, no home, no refund, and a loan you are still legally required to repay. Malaysia has had hundreds of abandoned housing projects over the past few decades. Thousands of families have been caught in this nightmare. Some waited over a decade for resolution. Some are still waiting. And the worst part? The system that was supposed to protect them largely failed them. You might be wondering, surely there are laws to prevent this? There are. But they have not been enough. Malaysia uses what is called a sell-then-build model for most new housing developments. The developer sells units before construction is complete and uses buyer payments and bank disbursements to fund the building process. This model puts all the risk on the buyer. If the developer mismanages funds, takes on too much debt, or simply runs out of money, the project stalls. And because the payments have already been made, buyers have very little leverage. Compare this to countries like Australia, where developers must complete construction before they can collect full payment, or where buyer deposits are held in protected trust accounts. The risk is distributed very differently. In Malaysia, regulatory oversight of developers has historically been inconsistent. Some developers have launched multiple projects simultaneously, stretching resources thin. Others have diverted funds meant for one project to cover losses in another. The government has introduced reforms over the years, including a build-then-sell option and stronger enforcement through the Ministry of Housing. But adoption has been slow. And for the buyers already trapped, those reforms came too late. Now let us talk about something that is hitting buyers right now, even those who bought from reliable developers. Interest rates. When you take a home loan in Malaysia, most mortgages are on a floating rate, meaning your monthly repayment can change as the base rate moves. For years, interest rates were at historic lows. Monthly repayments were manageable. Life was comfortable. But when rates began rising, thousands of homeowners saw their monthly repayments increase, sometimes significantly, without any increase in their income. At the same time, Bank Negara tightened lending rules to cool an overheated market. Many buyers who had already committed to purchasing a property, paid the booking fee, signed the sale and purchase agreement, suddenly found their bank loan rejected. They lost their booking fees. Some were sued by developers for breaching the sale agreement. Others scrambled to find alternative financing at worse terms. The market that once seemed to welcome everyone suddenly became a trap with a spring-loaded door. Now, this is the section that matters most, because knowing the problem is only useful if you know what to do about it. First, research the developer before you sign anything. Check their track record. Have they completed previous projects on time? Do they have any abandoned projects in their history? The Housing Controller's website and property forums in Malaysia are good starting points. Second, understand your loan structure. Ask your bank directly, is this a fixed or floating rate loan? What happens to your repayments if rates rise by 1%? By 2%? Run those numbers before you commit. Third, never stretch your budget to the absolute maximum. Banks in Malaysia will approve you for the highest loan they legally can. That does not mean you should take it. Leave financial breathing room for rate increases, maintenance costs, and life's unexpected turns. Fourth, consider the location honestly. Not where you wish things will be in 10 years, where things are right now. Is there public transport? Employment nearby? Real demand from real people? Buying in a beautiful but empty township hoping it develops is a gamble, not an investment. Fifth, get a lawyer who represents you, not the developer. In many Malaysian property transactions, buyers use the developer's recommended lawyer. That lawyer's primary client is not you. Hire your own independent legal counsel and read every line of that sale and purchase agreement. Owning a home is still one of the most powerful things a person can do for their family's future. But in Malaysia, like in many parts of the world, the path to that home is filled with traps that are not always visible until you're already inside them. The developers who overpromised, the system that underprotected, the rates that shifted, the projects that stopped. These are not rare stories. They're the stories of real families, right now, trying to find a way out. The best protection you have is knowledge. And you now have more of it than you did 10 minutes ago. If this video opened your eyes, do one simple thing. Hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this information reach the people who need it most. Subscribe if you want to keep understanding the financial systems that shape everyday life, because we break down stories like this every single week. Share this with someone you know who is thinking about buying property. It might be the most important thing you do for them today. I will see you in the next one.